this car is the coolest road car I have ever driven in my entire life.
Alright guys, the time has come. Finally, I'm going to address all of your questions about the 458 Speciale Aperta. But before we get started, I need to give a special shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Movement Watches. Movement Watches has become the fastest growing watch company in the world for a good reason. They have an incredible underdog story and produce exceptionally clean watches that won't break the bank. They are completely disrupting the status quo with some of their new designs and have sold over 1.5 million watches worldwide because of their high quality and fair price. This happens to be one of my favorite watches that they make, and it's their first ever automatic watch, the Arc Automatic. The finish is absolutely stunning, and it's designed based on 1960s experimental architecture. But my favorite part is this gorgeous open case back. Traditionally reserved for more expensive watches, you can see all of the beautiful inner workings of this Arc Automatic watch through that window. Absolutely love it. I've been wearing this watch for a week now and have received tons of compliments. You can even exchange the straps for different occasions. The options are limitless. Movement watches start at just $95 and have the same quality as timepieces costing $400 or more. If you're looking for a beautiful, classy timepiece to complete your outfit or make a statement, look no further than Movement Watches. The best part is because you are a Vehicle Version subscriber, you get 15% off, free shipping, and free returns. All you have to do is go to mvmt.com/vehicleversions. Movement is launching new styles on their site at all times, so make sure to head to mvmt.com/vehicleversions. Link in the description below. Let's get on to the video. Well guys, this is a long overdue video, and I'm incredibly sorry that it has taken this long for me to create this. There's a lot of reasons behind that. One, work at the house, and two, I really wanted to gather my thoughts and put together the most honest and accurate representation so you guys can understand what was going through my mind and the reasoning behind this decision. But in this video, I wanted to explain exactly why I sold the car and why it's been so crushing for me, because it truly was the most spectacular car that I have ever owned. So let's rewind to the beginning. I've always been a Lamborghini person. In 2004, when the Gallardo came out, my mind was blown. I had my heart set. I was 10 years old when it happened, and I went, I don't know how, I don't know why, but I'm going to do something. I'm gonna work hard enough. I'm not gonna quit when times get tough, so that eventually, it doesn't matter if I'm 30, 40, 50, 60, I can buy a 2004 Lamborghini Gallardo. I loved the design, the Giallo Midas color in particular. I just had this vision. You know what they say? Sometimes you visualize things hard enough and your dreams become your reality. Well, eventually, through this YouTube channel, I was able to buy that 2004 Lamborghini Gallardo Candace. For those of you who remember who've been with the channel for a very long time, I thank you so much for sticking around that long. So I got the Gallardo. It was everything I wanted, and it fulfilled my Lamborghini dreams. But there always was this desire for Ferrari. It was just a little bit off-put by a couple of things that had happened to me. For instance, I went to a dealership once with the Gallardo, and I was looking at a used Ferrari, and I was told by one of the salespeople that they were sorry that I had a lesser brand car, and when I wanted to step up into a real car, to let him know. And I thought that was like really offensive. I get Ferrari is amazing and all that, but come on, Lesser brand car, that's pretty brutal and offensive. Are you trying to sell a car or not? So I was very off put by that experience and a couple owners that I had met. And I foolishly kind of wrote off the brand for a long time. It wasn't until test driving a bunch of them for vehicle versions like a 458, a 430, a 360 manual, that I really started to get how amazing of a driving experience these cars provide. F12, 812, driven a bunch of Ferraris at this point. So fast forward to Pebble Beach, Monterey Car Week last year, actually 2 weeks before that. I was at a watch shop in Newport Beach, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna pop across the street and I'm going to go to Ferrari of Newport Beach, see what they got, just stroll around. Something fun about going to dealerships and just window shopping. Anyways, I saw a beautiful yellow Ferrari 458 Speciale. I went, wow. There is something about a yellow Ferrari that speaks to me in a way that the other colors don't. They also had a black Speciale Aperta, although I didn't really love the spec on the Speciale Aperta, but I was fixated on that yellow Speciale. And right at that moment, I fell in love with the car and I knew I was completely that I was going to be buying one. So I started doing more research on the cars, figuring out what they traded for, and something sparked in my mind that I wanted to do something crazy, and that was get my first really limited edition car for a multitude of reasons. I wanted to reach that next level. You know, I love the Huracan. It is basically a perfect car, especially with the supercharger. It's amazing. But there are a ton of Huracans. I wanted something just a little bit more special and rare. The Speciale Aperta, they only made 499 of those. Now, why is it cool that it's rare? One, you drive one around the road. I have never been driving my Speciale Aperta and seen another person driving a Speciale Aperta on the road, which isn't the case with the Huracan. And two, it felt like I owned kind of this rare collectible piece of art that, very importantly, this is an important part of the purchasing decision, eventually, most likely would go up in value. The Speciale Apertas are very, very expensive. At the level where, if I'm being honest, it's a little bit too expensive for me to buy a car like that if it were to depreciate. But the fact that they only made 499 and the fact that Ferrari is the brand, Ferrari and Porsche, for appreciating limited edition cars, I felt confident that if I bought the car, had it for a while, eventually sold it, maybe didn't sell it, that it would go up in value. So it seemed like the perfect combination of drive an amazing car, build some really cool content for the channel, and potentially make some money. Instead of having money in the stock market, you have a little bit of the money in a Ferrari that you can actually drive around and enjoy instead of just watching money go up or down on a computer screen. So I bought the car the week of Monterey Car Week, had one of the best weeks of my life. Drove it in a convoy with friends to Pebble Beach, drove it all around, put about 1,000 miles on the car within just a couple of days. The driving experience was absolutely magical. First time ever owning a convertible, and actually the first car I had ever purchased without driving it beforehand. So I was a little bit nervous, but I trusted in the fact, knowing what a 458 feels like, how special that is, and knowing Ferrari's recipe for making a more hardcore vehicle, I knew that it was gonna fit just perfectly in line with what kind of car that I would like and that I would love the driving experience. And it turns out it is arguably the best road car that I have ever driven. The mix of that incredible naturally aspirated V8, highest horsepower per liter of any naturally aspirated engine ever created. The steering feel is the most precise, beautiful. I mean, it feels like you're driving a go-kart on the road. It feels like you're dancing with the car. The way the chassis moves, then the open top experience, everything together was absolutely magical. Then I got home and reality started to set in. Not buyer's remorse, just reality with what car I had actually purchased. And this brought the most difficult realization I've had in cars. And I think it's important for you guys to understand too, is that the perfect car is not necessarily the perfect car for you. So I thought, you know, the Speciale Aperta, It's perfect. It's the perfect driving experience. It sounds so good. It's so beautiful. It's the perfect color, maize and blue. I love this. It's special. It's gonna go up in value. I can't think of a more perfect car. I had thought of potentially a Carrera GT, but the maintenance cost worried me, knowing that the Speciale Aperta was a 458. At the end of the day, it was going to be decently more reliable. The biggest problem was I have never owned a car where I had to worry about mileage. The Speciale Aperta, I've never seen one with more than 6,000 miles on the clock. I bought my car with, I believe, 1,400 miles, knowing that I really didn't want to cross that 6,000 mile mark, because as cool as having the highest mileage car would be, it also means you have the cheapest, least valuable car. And I'm not there yet financially to where that's an acceptable thing. And this is where it really dawned on me that I had to think long and hard about every single time I took the car out. Is it worth putting miles on the car? It's gonna depreciate it this amount. Is it special enough? And that started to drive me insane. People requested that I took it to car shows, and I'm Google Maps saying, I wanna take it down to Newport Beach, but it's gonna be a 200-mile round trip, and do I really wanna do that? And I only get 10 of those in the lifespan of the car. And then I basically stopped driving the car, which was unbelievably depressing. Having basically your dream sitting in the garage and being too afraid to drive it was the worst feeling in the world. And then there was one other issue, and that was the rear diffuser is just too low for the kind of daily drivability that I wanted to do. I realized that pulling into gas stations, namely, you had to be so careful and go to specific gas stations in order to actually get the car in without scraping the rear diffuser. Now, if you had a route planned out and you knew exactly where you were gonna take the car, it wasn't a big deal, but knowing that I like to just go out and drive with friends and go random places, it was just too worrisome for me to deal with that rear diffuser and the mileage at the same time. I guess it's I don't know if it's a self-control thing or what, but I love driving cars so much, and I think that's obvious by the fact that I've got nearly 30,000 miles on my Huracan, that it just wasn't fun for me to have a garage queen. And unfortunately, I have decided to sell the Speciale Aperta. And well, yeah, I can't believe I'm saying that. It actually was the most amazing driving car that I've ever owned. It was such a spectacular experience owning the car, driving the car. Every time I drove it, it gave me immense happiness and pleasure. But there was always this overarching worry about the miles and the rear diffuser that just didn't make it fun for me. And I ended up taking out the Huracan and going, yeah, it's not as special of a car, it doesn't drive quite as well, but I don't have to care as much. So there's some carefree, fun element of that. The reality of the situation is I probably should have just purchased a Speciale. If I had purchased a Speciale, they're about half as much money. Some of them have way more miles. They're less of a collector car. They made more of them, and it wouldn't have been nearly as big of a deal. The reason I thought the Speciale Aperta was such a brilliant decision was last naturally aspirated mid-engine special edition V8 Ferrari. So they made the Speciale and the Speciale Aperta. The Speciale wasn't all that limited. I believe they made 3,000 or 4,000 of them instead of 499 of the Aperta. Then when they made the 488 Pista, also not really that limited, twin turbocharged, and then they made the Pista Spider, which also was nowhere near as limited, didn't have that special Aperta name. I think this car is gonna be a gold mine, and also something incredibly fun to hold on to and drive at the exact same time. Now, am I gonna be kicking myself 10 years from now when the cars are worth significantly more? Probably, but I'd rather have that extra money, to be honest, for a million different things, especially for a car that I could drive all the time. There was a period where collecting as many cars as possible seemed like the ultimate goal for me. I wanted every single car, and you just take them out when you felt like it. But now I'm realizing that it doesn't provide that much enjoyment for me personally. I like to get everything, the most, and really bond with a specific car, and I can't do that if I'm just driving it a couple of miles. You really don't learn the full character and personality of a car with just driving it briefly. So there's the deal, guys. I have my Speciale Aperta up for sale at San Francisco Ferrari. I've got a link in the description below if you want to check it out. Please, only serious inquiries. Don't email them with a bunch of random questions. If you are interested, it is an absolutely pristine, incredible fun to drive car. It just wasn't the right car for me. Still figuring out what the next right perfect car for me is. It's a learning experience. I'm growing, I'm maturing, and it sucks to let this car go. It really does. But I hope you guys understand the reason why I couldn't keep the car. It just was painful to sit there and look at it and be afraid to drive it. It's just not what cars are about. Well, with that was a sad, depressing video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video.